Make yourself at home.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Matheson, and welcome from Auckland, New Zealand, where it's 7 a.m. on a winter's morning. It's dark outside, and I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar on early childhood education. Got some amazing speakers here today, some real experts from all around the world, and so I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. First, from Best Start New Zealand is Wayne Sullivan. Wayne, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Scott, thank you for the invite on today's webinar. Yep, my name is Wayne Sullivan. I've been working in recruitment for the last 15 years in various different countries. I specialise in education recruitment. I'm running a project at the moment for Best Start to bring in international teachers with EC qualified background. I don't know how much you want to know, but I have 2 children. I've been in New Zealand now for the last 8 years, which is now home.
And you're originally from the UK?
Yep, I'm not sure if it still gives it away, but I'm definitely from the UK still, yeah.
Thanks, Wayne. And if I can go all the way over to the UK, Paul Goddard, who's been working in for over 20 years off and on. Paul, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Paul, and I've done the opposite to Wayne. I lived in New Zealand for nearly 18 years, and I'm currently back in the UK at the moment. I can hop back to New Zealand at any point, which I will be doing at some point in the future. But my role is basically as I'm a licensed immigration advisor, but also I moved to New Zealand with my family, so I know what it's like, and I know the experience that everyone goes through. So very much work as a kind of journey manager for those of you on this call who do actually make the move, because we do provide a lot of support that isn't just to do with visas and jobs. It's about the family and the move, and we're here for that as well.
Thanks, Paul. Very much the holistic view on how to actually migrate, which is a massive move in anybody's language. And then finally, but not least, is Nazim Lazari, who's based in our Auckland office with me. Nazim, if you could introduce yourself.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everyone. My name is Nassim. I'm an Australian who moved to New Zealand with a very lovely Kiwi man. I've also got 2 kids. I've been working in for 11 years, helping lots of people make the move. Obviously, being Auckland-based, I get to meet a lot of our clients when they first move to New Zealand, and I'll be going over some of the additional details that you might be wondering about making the move permanently over to New Zealand.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nassim. And so as you can all see, everybody, I'm the only New Zealander actually on this webinar. My name is Scott Matheson. I co-founded Working In with my partner. We are a reasonable sized business. We have over 50 staff. This is our team that I brought up on the screen now who are involved in immigration. So we know we have a lot of people here that can help with your visa, but we're small enough to care. That's how we view it, very much around personalized service. But we love what we do. We love helping skilled people move to New Zealand. And from an immigration and employment perspective, you've basically come to the right place, especially if you're an early childhood education teacher. Now, before we go into the agenda, I always like to show people a little bit about what it's like to live in New Zealand. And so I've just thrown up some photos. These people are actually in our team here at Working In. I asked if everybody could show us a few photos of their life so that I could show all you, people that are on here today, what is life like in New Zealand? Well, we're not on the beach or in the water all the time, but come summertime, our summers are reasonably long. We are in the depths of winter right now, but I think New Zealand is known for being very family friendly, a lot of outdoor, activities, and I think that's a big part of the attraction and why at the moment New Zealand is a very, very, very popular destination. So there's a lot of people on this webinar. We really appreciate you coming along. And this is what we're going to cover off today. So quick overview on where things are with the borders. New Zealand has been known for, I guess, having quite tight control on the borders, and the immigration settings have changed significantly. So we'll talk to Nassim about that. the EC employment landscape, how to get a job in New Zealand, and we'll talk to Wayne in depth around that, and how can you make the move, and how do you make the move, and some of the barriers to overcome, even though you may have a job offer, and how do you avoid some of those costly mistakes, which we just don't want you to make. There is a chat room as well, so please feel free to answer some questions. Hopefully Nazim may be able to answer them while we go, or Paul or Wayne, so it's a bit of a group effort, but that's what we're going to cover off today. So I'm just going to give you a very, very quick overview of what's happening in New Zealand today, and then I'll be asking questions from here on. And so what is actually happening in New Zealand? Well, right now the unemployment rate is at an all-time low, 3.3% unemployment. Lots of skilled people are required all through New Zealand. So if you're an early childhood education teacher and you're qualified and you get registration, and your partner has other skills, then the likelihood of obtaining a job is very high. But the immigration settings have changed though, and they are very, I think they're high. And so that's one of the reasons why we're having this webinar, is that New Zealand wants skilled people. So long as you can prove and provide that information and that proof, then there's a very good chance that your skills are going to be in demand. Okay, so look, I just want Nazim, if you could just briefly describe the new immigration system, really, really simply, so that people can understand what it is that's actually required.
Sure, Scott. So most things haven't changed in that, you still do need a job offer in order to migrate to New Zealand. What has changed though is that it is now a little bit more of an employer-led migration journey to New Zealand, with the employers in New Zealand having to go through a couple of additional steps to what they used to. So lots of companies have already become accredited under the new, it's called the Accredited Employer Work Visa Scheme. And what that means is that companies get approval from the government in advance to prove that they're a good employer, they've got good systems in place, and so they're an employer you want to work with, in order for them to be able to recruit skills from offshore. Once they've got that, they go through a job check process, which they used to do anyway as part of the essential skills policy. It's just been separated out. So once the employer's done their bit, then like normal, the individual with the job offer in New Zealand applies for their visa. So in terms of what the process is like now, it's similar, although a little bit different. But for anyone that's watching this and wondering what it means for them, for you, it's basically the same process. You just basically need to obtain a suitable offer of employment. And once the employer's done their bit, you apply for the visas for yourself and your family. So in a nutshell, that's the current immigration landscape. It is, the name of the visa's changed. It's called the Accredited Employer Work Visa. It's a temporary visa with the opportunity for it to lead to residence.
Fantastic, Nazim. So basically, there's only one type of work visa now. Is that correct?
It's not the only type of work visa. It's 6 of the common work visas were replaced into one. For anyone coming to work in New Zealand as an early childhood teacher, this would be the one visa that they're eligible for.
Okay, so that's fantastic. And then what you're saying is that, but in order to apply for that visa, the employer that's employing you must have accreditation. Can you just explain that a little bit more? Because I think it's a really important point, and it gives the people, the listeners, a lot of, I guess, security.
Yeah, so effectively the New Zealand government decided that in order to streamline their migration process and to make sure that they've got a really good system in place for attracting the best, they were only going to allow the best to recruit skills as well. So in line with all of this criteria, they implemented this employer accreditation. So New Zealand employers need to prove that, they're financially viable, they've got, they're going to be around for a very long time, they've got, good, fair employment contracts that would be the same for anyone looking to work at that company, and that there are protections then in place to look after those people who come from overseas, so that effectively they've got the same rights and recourse as any other Kiwi doing that role. So by taking employers through this process, any employer that is accredited that is recruiting, is a good employer. and one that has been checked by the government. And so you can feel confident that, if you're moving from the other side of the world, you're not doing it with as much risk, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important part of the new immigration process, is that it does protect the migrant worker from any exploitation. And the good thing about it is that, we have Wayne on this webinar from Best Start, and Best Start has already obtained their accreditation. So it was one of the first employers in New Zealand to actually obtain their accreditation, which means that if you are offered a job by Best Start, then, you just need to go through the process, and you can be assured that they are accredited by our government. So Wayne, on to you. So what are the requirements for an ECE teacher to migrate to New Zealand? Obviously, you need registration and you need your qualifications assessed. That seems to be quite a complex process, is it?
Not so much, actually. For early childhood education teachers, there is for everybody has to go through an IQA assessment, which is an international qualification assessment. And that's even if you're primary trained or if you're ECE trained. So what they will be looking for is that you have a bachelor's of education in the country of origin, but more importantly, they will also be looking for experience of teaching from 9 to 7-year-olds. There are obviously people who go through and achieve a bachelor's and end up teaching in primary, which may or may not be in that 0 to 7 age group. If you have a bachelor's and you haven't taught in 0 to 7, you will still struggle to get an early childhood education New Zealand qualified assessed certificate, I suppose, for want of a better word. Yeah.
Okay, so to clarify that, the main requirements are a Bachelor of Education.
Yep.
And then you'll submit that qualification to the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can send you the link after this webinar, but it's a link to a international qualification assessment. So they will just ask you to complete a form and upload your transcripts of all of your and your certificates, and they will then assess your qualifications based on the New Zealand qualifications.
To essentially see whether that is the equivalent of a New Zealand Bachelor's of Education.
Yep, you want it to come out at level 7.
Fantastic. And then the secondary requirement is that you've got to have some experience teaching 0 to 7-year-olds.
Correct.
And how many years is that? Are they specific around that? And
yeah, it's hard to put it in a box, if I'm honest, because there's so much variation between how they assess. But generally, if you've been teaching for 10 years, you'd want at least 70% of that 10 years to be teaching 0 to 7.
And is there a minimum requirement of years, Wayne? Because I'm sure there's people here that are quite young that graduated maybe 3 or 4 years ago with a Bachelor of Education, maybe 3 years experience.
Yeah, 3 years is fine. Yeah, just a minimum of 1 year experience. Yeah.
A minimum of 1 year experience. Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic. And so the order that you do that is you submit and you wait for the NZQA to come back and approve, I guess, your qualifications.
Yep. Once your qualifications are assessed, and that means that you can pretty much teach in New Zealand, which is the most important part of the process.
Okay.
And I would advise anyone to do the New Zealand NZQA first before teaching council registration, because if you've been teaching as a primary school teacher, you will still get your teaching council registration, but you still may not be able to teach early childhood education. So my advice was, it might seem like you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because both processes will have to be done eventually. But I would wait definitely to get your assessment back on the NZQA, because there is a significant or a cost involved.
Okay, all right. And are you do you know those costs off the top of your head?
Yep, it's $749 Kiwi dollars for a IQA assessment.
Okay, and then the teaching registration process?
Yep. So once you get your qualifications assessed, then you will basically need a teaching registration also to teach in New Zealand. The cost of a teaching certificate for 3 years is $434.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. So if we can just bring the screen up to be registering as a teacher, I should be able to see it. Wayne, can you see that screen?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So the early childhood requirements are NZQA, so getting your qualification assessed. Once that's done, you're saying doing your teacher registration process.
Yeah.
What are the combined timelines in terms of the processing around that?
Yeah, and it does differ. And I just want to point out at the moment, NZQA is promoting it's between 6 to 8 weeks for for the assessment to be done. So if you are definitely interested in moving to New Zealand, I would definitely start the process as soon as possible. The teaching registration, if you have a job offer, they will prioritize. So if you have a job offer and your NZQA, and we can still give a job offer without your teaching registration. So as long as you have your NZQA, we can start the process with Best Start, and we can offer on a condition for the teaching registration process, so it doesn't hold you up. But they say between 6 and 8 weeks for that process to happen as well.
Okay. Look, that's really interesting that you can actually, for the right person, for the right candidate, once they've been interviewed, and then you want to go ahead with them, that job offer can be much sooner, so that the candidates have assurances, and then they can go forward and get their registration.
For sure, and it's unusual, I've never heard of it, that you get an NZQA qualification assessed and not get a teaching council, unless obviously something significant has happened in your past in regards to your teaching, which hopefully that's not the case.
Okay. And so, Wayne, can you just tell us a little bit more about Best Start? Because obviously you're very significant. I think 270 centres throughout New Zealand. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the organisation, and it means that we can cater for sun, sea, sand, mountains, city, rural. We have 260 centres, with 10 to open this year. So you are right, Scott. It's just but yes, we have from the north of the country all the way down to Invercargill, which is one of the south regions of New Zealand, and again they're different. They tailor for different people. They're quite unique. There's licenses for 25 children up to license of 100 children. So they do vary in size. Some teachers some of you would like to work in a smaller centre. Some would like to work in a bigger organisation, a bigger centre. But a big organisation, it means that there is career progression as well. It means that we move people within one significant area for promotion, but we also are happy for people to look at relocation throughout their journey as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I think there are a few questions that are coming up, and we will get to those. Wayne, there's people asking a lot about their NZQA. That seems to be quite a hot topic, and maybe there's some clarity that we require from you in a moment. But I'll talk to Nazim now, because assuming that people can get their NZQA and their teaching registration, and they have a job offer from Best Start, what's the next step in the process, Nazim?
Once you've got that, the next step is to actually get your visa application prepared for lodgement. So the one thing that we find most common is that everyone wants to jump on a plane straight away, which is great. New Zealand's wonderful. We want you here. And we know that's why you want to come also. But there is a little bit of preparation that needs to be done, and that's in relation to the documents for yourself, the documents for any family members that are joining you, and applying for that visa application as required. there are some things that you can prepare in advance, but you don't want to do everything because some things do have an expiry date on them, like police clearances and medicals. So we always talk about getting everything ready as far as possible, pending the job offer. And once you know your timelines, and then we can start the actual submission of the visa application process. But maybe even before you get to there, and I guess this is something that Paul's really versed in explaining, is that it's important to understand that you qualify to even go down this journey. I know that we've talked about people getting an NZQA. Not every NZQA assessment will come out at the right level, depending on your specific qualifications and work experience. So I think it's important for people to understand that just because you've got qualifications in education and work experience in early childhood, that it doesn't mean that it's a done deal. You do need to go through a process. We do need to make sure that you do tick off all of the boxes along the way so that you can, you know, proceed with applying for the NZQA, waiting for the outcome, and then doing your teacher's registration in some cases.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot going on here, Nazim, isn't there? It is a bit of a maze. I mean, we're here to make this clear. I mean, that's our job, that's our role, and that's our experience. I get that. But Paul, maybe you can just describe what the eligibility assessment does and why it's so important, especially for family members, if you've got family members and such and so forth. If I can introduce Paul. Paul.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, one of the first things that we do with anybody who we're helping move to New Zealand is get a really good, clear picture of you, your family, your situation, your background, when you're looking to move, can you move, how does the move work, what are the steps you've got to take, what's the process you need to go through, what are the barriers and hurdles you need to overcome. I'm sure if you're looking at moving like I did, 20 years ago, there are so many moving parts to this journey that you've got to line up, and you can either choose to spin round and round in circles on the internet and kind of go nowhere, because the internet isn't about you and your move. It's not personalized. Or part of the process that you go through us is you give us all the information we need about you and your family, and then we run that past our visa team, and they do a full assessment that matches with current immigration policy. So we're looking at those things that Nazim touched on around qualifications and ability to meet the criteria, etc. We're also looking at the bigger picture stuff like your health and character and whatever else it might be. And then we can actually create a report that we email to you, and that clarifies everything, the points you can claim, the visas you can get and everything else. And it also includes a consultation with me that usually lasts around 45 minutes to an hour. And just think of me as like a journey manager. I get the information from the team. I'm a licensed advisor. I can see what that roadmap looks like, and then I personalize it to you and how it fits with you and your plans. That's much better than spinning around in circles on the internet.
Now, look, I think the important thing is that if you are lucky enough to be offered a job at Best Start, you've got over the biggest part of the hurdle of migrating, haven't you, Paul? The job offer, in almost all circumstances, will allow you to obtain your accredited employer work visa. But I think what you're talking about is the holistic, is what's beyond that. What about residency? What about your children? So is Nazim, just butting in there, is there a pathway for residency for early child education teachers, please?
Yes, they do have a pathway to residency, staying employed on that visa for the 2-year period. But I think also importantly, for anyone who might be, keeping an eye or listening to what's happening in, New Zealand immigration, you'll know that your partner will qualify for an open work visa. Your children will also then qualify for, domestic student status student visas. So you can all come as a family and all settle, and, the rest of your family sorted, and you can, get straight in and start doing your work, and you know that there's that end goal that's already been sorted for you, which means that you can stay in New Zealand indefinitely.
Thank you. That's good. That's great news, isn't it? I mean, residency is the goal for a lot of people. And I think, Paul, also, once you do have that visa and you do want to relocate, we do have a screen here, if we can bring that up. We have a number of relocation partners, which makes it really, really simple. And when you do get that offer, if you want to just explain this, Paul, and how that whole system works.
Yeah, we're quite different to your traditional visa agency who does visas. We do visas as part of our service, obviously, but we do take you from where you are to get you to where you want to be, which is ultimately settled in New Zealand. So we do provide a lot of relocation support advice. We work with banks, we work with shipping companies, we work with flight companies. If you've got pets, we work with pet shipping companies. We do move people from all over the world to New Zealand, and we've got some really good ongoing support networks as part of the journey with us. We put you in touch with our other clients. Some of them are already in New Zealand, some of them are on the way to New Zealand. You pretty much have access to ongoing support around this move until you don't need it anymore.
Fantastic, and that's absolutely true. And people, even though the borders aren't opening until the end of July, we've got people coming through on the critical purpose visa, and they have been arriving for the last couple of years and utilising all these services. So, Wayne, there's a couple of questions on here. If I can just read them out, because I think they're interesting. I've already registered with the New Zealand Teachers Council, but I do not have NZQA because my degree was on the pre-approved list. Can I get a job offer? What is the pre-approved list, please? You're on mute, Wayne.
If you come in as a primary school teacher and you're primary trained, there's some STEM qualifications and primary qualifications that are pre-approved, which means you don't need to do the IQA if you teach in primary. Unfortunately, due to licensing laws from the Ministry of Education, even if you're primary school trained on a pre-approved list and you have the Teaching Council registration, you will still need to do an IQA assessment.
Okay. And what about this person who has completed the IQA, is assessed at level 7, but considered unqualified, ECT? How can that be that?
Again, it's hard for me to answer without seeing all the transcripts of that particular person's qualifications. However, there is one other pathway through Teaching Council. This is going to get really confusing, and I'm happy to talk to this person individually.
Okay.
If you can prove that you are qualified with a Bachelor's of Education, and that you have experience working with early childhood, there are some universities that didn't match up to the degree didn't match up to the same amount of points. So, for example, I had a similar example recently. So a teacher, she had a degree from Liverpool University, 3-year degree. She was teaching in primary and early childhood. She only come up to 300 points as part of the assessment. You need 360 points to be level 7. There is a teacher pathway that you can apply to for discretion. They meet once a month, and they will look at a case-by-case basis. So if this particular person has come back as not assessed as ECT or ECE, then that is a possibility of going down that pathway. Happy to share some information on that.
Okay, so look, I think what I'm hearing from you is that not everything's black and white. Every single person, and we do say this anyway, don't we, guys, is that, every single situation is so unique. There's no possible way that we can give a blanket rule for everybody that's on this webinar. We do have a form that you can complete in order to sort of do your initial application, as it were. So I guess the process is here. If I can just bring up that form, please, which is what is the process? And I think it's really important here. So there is an eligibility appraisal form. We'll have that link put up in the chat. If you complete that, it'll give Wayne and his team, and our team, a indication of whether you will be meeting those standards. We'll then contact you, ask you for your CV, and organise an interview. And that will be with Wayne and his team. And from there, you're kind of in the process. And as Wayne said, there's the opportunity of getting that job offer, which is conditional on your registration, which is amazing. It's a very unusual, but a very good position to be in when an organization has the ability to offer you a role subject to completing further documentation. And then which gives you a whole lot of assurance. Now, at that point, there's the visa process, there's the, and once you have your visa, then you can move to New Zealand. Now, we've got down there step 7, relocation support. In circumstances, do people get any relocation support? It's always a big question, Wayne.
Yep. At the moment, there is a government initiative. There is caveats to the initiative at the moment, which will be reviewed. But there's a 5,000 grant that the government is offering for teachers to relocate to New Zealand. The caveat is at the moment is that they arrive before the 31st of December of this year. And the reason why that's there is because that's the amount of funding the government has allocated to that at the moment. That will be reviewed in October. And again, I'm not a politician, but from previous experience running, this is my 3rd or 4th international project that I've run over the last 5 years. There is a good opportunity that will get extended into next year. Okay. But at the moment, the caveat is to arrive by the 31st of December, and also to provide receipts for your flights and et cetera, which you can.
And the visa. Yeah. Okay, so that's really interesting, isn't it? Is that well, there's a little bit of incentive for everybody who's already started the process to complete the form. The government is offering 5,000 New Zealand dollars if you arrive before the end of the year. That's certainly possible. One of the things that we know about immigration is that even though there's a lot of pressure on immigration right now, the system that's set up will be quicker once you actually apply for your visa. So our advice is complete that form. Has that link been put up? I think it has. Yeah, there's an initial form. Complete that, send that through, and then we'll be in touch as soon as possible. And then for all those sort of sticky questions, because it's really clear that there are a lot of different questions, Wayne will be able to answer them, or Paul or Nazim. Now, whilst we've got you here, Wayne, since you're such a specialist in this sort of education space, I know this is all about early child education, but what if someone doesn't meet that ECE, but they're clearly a teacher and they've been teaching young children? I mean, are there further options for them in primary school? We don't want to cut people off completely if they've got a bachelor's degree and they have experience as a teacher.
Yeah, definitely. And what we'll find, particularly at the back end of this year, is schools, particularly primary schools, looking at the workforce planning for what teachers they will need going into next year, term 1, which starts in February. There is, and I have spoke to a lot of principals in that primary school space, and they are expecting a need for overseas teachers going into next year. So if you are a primary school teacher, I wear 2 hats. I wear a Best Start hat, but I also have a business that supports primary school teachers into schools into New Zealand. So definitely happy to support anybody that might be interested to move over as a primary school teacher as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Thanks for that, Wayne. It's incredible. Certainly, if you're on this webinar and you're listening, it's a really good opportunity to click on that form, complete your details, get them through to us, and start the process. We always talk about it's getting started, Paul. I mean, you're so experienced in this, but one of the things that people do is that they research, but don't really ever get started. What's your advice in all your years around that?
Yeah, it's one of the most common things I see. I've spoken to thousands of people, as we all have over the years, and you immediately hit that kind of brick wall. I want to move to New Zealand. I know I need a job offer, but where do I start? I can't lodge a visa yet. Do I get my NZQA done yet? Do I get that done yet? You know, getting things lined up properly is really important, because if you don't, it can actually go wrong. And we see people do that all the time. I mean, just randomly blasting your CV all over New Zealand does not work. It's a really bad idea because that's what everyone else is doing. The borders have been shut for 2.5 years. There are literally hundreds of thousands, or if not millions of people wanting to move to New Zealand right now. And guess what? Most of them are bombarding employers with CVs, and you don't want to be in that pile of people or in that mix. Get a clear plan, get a clear way forward where the barriers are removed. Then you can actually move forward with confidence, and the employer can move forward with confidence. And that's really, really important. First step. If you're not already a client of ours, some of the guys on here are clients of ours. I've seen that, which is great. But if you're not a client of ours, fill that for me. And that's the easiest way to get started.
Yeah, and look, Paul, you know, that whole thing about sending your CV out, it's so important, isn't it? Not to send your CV out now, because, you know, most people are not ready. Can you just explain that in detail? Because if you're not ready, you're just wasting everybody's time, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, we've sat in offices with employers, and Wayne will back this up as well. I mean, you can sit there and you put an advert up, and there's CVs from New Zealand, there's CVs from all over the world, and 9 times out of 10, an employer will pick up a CV, look at the CV and say, wow, this person's great, you know, and then they'll notice that they're overseas and say, that's a shame. If they were here right now in front of me and they had a visa, I would interview them. I'd probably give them a job tomorrow. But I don't know if they're going to get here. I don't know when they're going to get here. I don't know how serious they are. I don't know what I need to do to get them here. There's an endless list of reasons for the employer not to engage with you, because your CV doesn't tell the employer everything they need to know. It tells them you can do the job, doesn't tell them if, when, and how you're going to get to New Zealand if they offer you the job. And if that's not clear, then it's difficult to make things line up and for the employer to actually interview and get you further down that line. It is so important. I mean, I can't remember what the stats are for the success rate of people who just randomly fire CVs, but I know it is extremely low, and you don't want to be doing it that way. Get the risks removed for you and the employer.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, you've got a direct route here straight through to the person that matters, which is Wayne. So you're kind of lucky to be on this webinar. Nazim, this webinar has actually gone really quickly. We're up to 40 minutes at 7:40 a.m. here. It's getting into Netflix zone for a lot of people overseas. So I'm sure you want to get on with your evening. Do you have any last remarks or advice to people that are, you know, really do want to make this move and are committed?
Yeah, I think just following on from what Paul said is, you know, get the right information so that you've got the right plan for your journey. Having helped ECE teachers and primary school teachers over the years, I know that there's a lot that needs to be assessed up front so that you clearly understand what you can and can't do, and you will likely be able to do. You know, will your qualification likely come out at the right level? Will you likely be able to get the right type of registration? Once you know that, you know what sort of jobs you should be considering, you know, and then you could be looking and saying, well, you know, where has Best Start got opportunities for me? You know, because I can get my ECE registration because I do meet the criteria. You know, will my family be able to join? You know, when are we looking to come? Once you've got all of that lined up, the rest of the process is a lot clearer because you're taking out all the unknowns. You've got a plan and you know what you're working towards.
Fantastic. Very succinct. And Wayne, any last remarks before we have to finalize this webinar?
Just whoever the person on the call regarding the qualification not coming up as early childhood, I'm happy to kind of talk to that person and work it through. No problem. But yeah, look, we are definitely in a recruitment drive at the moment. We are looking to push hard to bring quality international teachers into Best Start, into New Zealand, integrate them into the community, and just from us as an organisation, us embedding them or you guys into the community and into the business is paramount in what we're trying to achieve. So I know obviously working will support you guys, but we will also support you as well in that settling in period. So, and I think that's, for somebody who's moved a few times overseas, it's that's definitely important in that integration.
Fantastic, thank you, Wayne. And look, if you do want to speak to Wayne, please fill out that form. That's the first start. I mean, we'd love to give you direct access and give you his mobile number, but as you can imagine, there's not a lot of bandwidth and it has to go through a process. You know, we don't really like that, to be honest, but it is just the way because of the huge volume that we're dealing with. So please complete that. We will be in touch. You will be able to talk to real humans. We're very personal, even though we're large. So, you know, don't worry about that. Complete the form that's up on the line. And we really, really hope to engage with you and actually see you down here in Aotearoa. So thank you for joining in. And we hope to see you one day. Kia ora. Bye-bye.